When you look into the village's financial records, one major issue jumps out, and it's backed by state law. Audited financial statements are required, but the village hasn't followed that legal obligation since 2012. That's more than a decade of non-compliance. And after 2021, nothing. No reports, no statements, no transparency. This means the village hasn't undergone a full, lawful audit in years, raising serious questions about financial accountability. Mayor Tiffany Henyard rarely speaks to the press. Instead, she's retained a defense attorney who now handles most: public communication. That attorney claims that Keith Freeman endangered the mayor's safety by removing her security detail. But legally, when she says he's out, he's out. Still, critics ask, how exactly did he put her in danger? Was it just a request? Or is there more behind it? Some speculate prosecutors are pressuring Freeman to cooperate in a larger investigation, one that could involve Henyard directly. But when asked, the mayor diverts, insisting the matter is only about her security detail. This isn't the first time Mayor Henyard's safety has become a headline. In the midst of controversy, she turned emotional, asking, "Why can't we support each other? Why can't we come together? Dr. King had a dream. Well, guess what? I am that dream." Then she made a bold move, declaring that there would be no further public comments, that only she would speak from now on, and she would tell the community what's really going on. That announcement came during a special meeting she called in response to a set of ordinances the village board passed just days earlier, aimed at controlling how event funds are used. Footage from an August 20th board meeting, provided by the Lansing Journal, showed the intensity of that moment. The mayor pushed back hard. "We're being attacked in the media. For what? For loving our community? For showing them they matter? We're walking through the fire for these people, and y'all want to tear us down?" Her words grew sharper. "You should be ashamed of yourselves. You're black. I'm black. And you're attacking a black woman in power? Shame on you!" Then came the shocker, a motion to terminate Keith Freeman, which she publicly confirmed that very night. It appeared the walls around her inner circle were starting to crack. One by one, her allies might be backing away, just not as quickly. As expected. Soon after, another voice entered the spotlight. "Today, I'm done staying silent," read a statement from Carmen Carla, a former associate. "It's time to speak out against Thornton Township Supervisor and Mayor of Dalton, Tiffany Henyard. Her behavior has been unethical and predatory for far too long. It all sounds like something out of a political thriller, but this is very real." Welcome to Dalton, Illinois, where local politics have turned into full-blown drama. And the Southeast center of it all is Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose controversial policies, polarizing decisions, and headline-grabbing actions have put her under relentless public scrutiny. It began with one eye-opening ordinance. If she loses re-election, her $225,000 salary drops to just $25,000. But if she wins, she keeps the full amount. That triggered a deeper investigation, and what surfaced shocked the community. She's reportedly tied to a private cancer awareness charity that's been advertised illegally along state highways. In investigating that issue, the village's own police chief allegedly uncovered even more serious concerns. One widely shared post claimed that Henyard had hired a registered child sex offender, approved huge paychecks for officers acting as her private security, and misused taxpayer funds on a massive scale. One officer allegedly earned $133,000 in just 2 weeks, racking up 300 hours of overtime, an amount that many say isn't just suspicious, but outright impossible. Impossible. And yet, the concerns don't stop there. Financial transparency in Dalton seems to have completely vanished. According to the state-mandated annual financial report, the village has failed to meet its reporting obligations since 2021. That's right. No audited financial statements have been produced after that year. In simple terms, the village's finances haven't been properly reviewed or verified for years. There's no oversight, no accountability, just a black hole where answers should be. And that's where things start to get dangerous. When pressed on these issues, Mayor Tiffany Henyard rarely steps up to answer directly. Instead, she leans on her defense attorney to face the public on her behalf. He claims that removing her personal security detail endangered her life. But the public isn't buying it. After all, she's the mayor of a village with barely 20,000 people. With so many questions swirling, it's hard not to wonder, was this really about safety? Or was it about control? Speculation continues to grow that prosecutors are applying pressure to her former allies, hoping someone will flip and cooperate in a potential investigation into her administration. Yet, as the heat intensifies, Henyard continues to present herself as a misunderstood leader, a symbol of strength unfairly targeted. At a public event, she lamented the community's lack of unity, invoked the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., and boldly declared, "I am the dream." The speech was clearly meant to inspire, but instead it left many in the audience more skeptical than moved. And then came a shocking betrayal. Dalton's self-declared super mayor suffered a blow, not from an opponent, but from someone who was once seen as part of her inner circle. Thornton Township trustee Carmen Carrile, previously thought to be a strong supporter of Henyard, broke her silence. In a public statement, Carrile directly accused the 41-year-old mayor of unethical conduct designed to increase her personal power and public image. The timing couldn't be worse. Henyard is already facing a barrage of fraud allegations and backlash over her excessive spending. Now even her former allies are distancing themselves. Carile's words were scathing. "I can no longer remain silent about Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard," she wrote. "I believe she has engaged in unethical and predatory practices throughout her term." According to Carrile, Henyard has spent the last 2 years manipulating staff, vendors, and residents, not for the good of the community, but to build her own influence. All of it, she claims, has been propped up by taxpayer money from both the village of Dalton and Thornton Township. Henyard projected success, but Carrile says it was a carefully crafted illusion, funded by the very people she was elected to. Serve.Carmen Carrile admits she stayed silent during earlier board meetings, even as Mayor Henyard indulged in lavish trips and questionable spending, because she believed in the administration. She trusted the process. But that trust? It's long gone. "I'm speaking out not just for myself, but for the many others who've been hurt by Tiffany Henyard's leadership," Carille said. She believes there are still countless others. Employees, vendors, even residents who've been retaliated against, terminated, or manipulated, but who remain silent out of fear. Carille didn't make her decision lightly, and it's easy to see why. Henyard, it seems, had the legal machinery on her side, wielding township credit cards freely and allegedly using a personal security force to intimidate anyone who might consider speaking out. Under that kind of pressure, silence becomes survival. But once Carille broke ranks, Henyard didn't take it quietly. In classic fashion, she fired back, publicly mocking Carille and even giving her a nickname, Lion Carille. On the record, Henyard snapped, "I'm tired of everyone in here. It's always a show. At the end of the day, you were part of this board, so why didn't you speak up before? Where was this energy last year, or even a few months ago?" That defensive outburst only added fuel to the fire, and seemed to indirectly confirm that something was, in fact, off within her administration. For a mayor who typically avoids public comments unless flanked by legal counsel, this raw, unscripted moment felt like a crack in the armor. Henyard tried to shift blame, accusing Carille of neglecting her responsibilities as a trustee, but Carille wasn't backing down. She explained, "The reason I didn't speak up earlier is because I trusted you. I believed in the process. But once that trust broke, I started asking questions. As your assistant, I saw and heard everything. The turning point? When you went on a national platform and claimed you had no knowledge of that foundation. I was in the room when it was discussed. You weren't honest. You even showed up at my house later, uninvited, trying to convince me to say someone else. Created it." Carille's revelations ripped the lid off Henyard's financial dealings, but she wasn't the only one reaching a breaking point. Trustee Chris Gonzalez had been pushing for transparency for months. From day one of Henyard's chaotic leadership, he'd been demanding access to financial records. His formal requests were ignored, repeatedly. So, On August 15th, Gonzalez took it a step further. He called for a special board meeting, not just to ask questions, but to confront the mayor head-on. That meeting wasn't business as usual. It was an intervention. On the agenda, questionable payments, overdue invoices, and, the biggest threat yet, 6 new ordinances designed to drastically limit Henyard's authority. These proposed rules included travel restrictions, salary, cuts, tighter budget control, limitations on her credit card use, and a ban on leveraging township resources for self-promotion. The message was clear. Gonzalez and Carrile weren't trying to slow Henyard down. They were laying the groundwork to shut her down completely. This kind of power struggle isn't unheard of. "I've seen this before," said one observer. "In school districts, in city councils. It's the same story. And you have to ask, has the state been called in to mediate yet?" So the question lingers. Has anyone reached out to the state? Has anyone formally asked for intervention, for oversight, for mediation? In similar cases across the country, especially in volatile school boards or dysfunctional councils, state agencies have stepped in. In Texas, for example, the education agency has taken over chaotic school districts to restore order. With the kind of disorder unfolding in Dalton, it begs the question, have Illinois state officials been contacted? Have lawmakers been alerted? Because what's happening here feels eerily familiar. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's rise to power wasn't exactly a storybook ascent. It was the product of a last-minute nomination. Ironically, it was Chris Gonzalez, one of her biggest critics today, who pushed her forward. Henyard was voted in and sworn into office just minutes before the midnight deadline. At first glance, many believed it was a spontaneous choice, but later it came out that Henyard had already submitted her application. According to a source close to the matter, she was nominated as a last resort, a decision made in desperation, to avoid leaving the appointment in the hands of township electors. Gonzalez, hoping to unify a divided board under pressure, made the call. When asked how she felt about this sudden political promotion, Henyard beamed. "Oh, ma'am, overjoyed. I didn't see it coming. I love it. That means I'm truly blessed and everyone loves me. I love them. Thank you." It was vintage Henyard, full of optimism and charm. But not everyone was convinced. Some critics believed the trustees had their own reasons for rushing the nomination, namely to avoid letting the public vote on the matter. That decision has since drawn widespread backlash. The residents of Dalton have been anything but silent. Many feel betrayed by a process that shut out their voices, and they're furious at what they see as the fallout. "It's heartbreaking," said one resident. "Our senior citizens can't afford basic necessities because of Tiffany's corruption." Another put it even more bluntly. "I knew something was off from the beginning. Tiffany needs to be held accountable. She's treating our tax dollars like her personal piggy bank." Even if Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carrile may have their own political motivations, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Henyard's time in power may be coming to an end, and she knows it. In a scramble to keep control, Henyard reportedly tried to rush past a critical agenda item, backup invoices from the finance department, documents that could expose her hidden spending. But Gonzalez was ready. He refused to let it slide. It's been brewing since July, when former aide Keith Freeman became a whistleblower, revealing questionable practices inside Henyard's administration. His reward? He was fired almost immediately. In his place, Henyard quietly appointed Keith Price, a loyalist, without any board approval. Another power move, another red flag. But Gonzalez pushed back hard. He challenged Henyard's authority, stating clearly that Price had no legal right to manage or access sensitive financial records without board consent. This wasn't just about paperwork. It was about unchecked power, silenced dissent, and a mayor willing to rewrite the rules to stay in charge. Desperate to cling to her privileges, Mayor Tiffany Henyard made a last-ditch effort to sidestep accountability. She attempted to fast-track a critical agenda item, backup invoices from the finance department, which could have exposed the very spending she'd been working so hard to conceal. But trustee Chris Gonzalez wasn't about to let it slide. Since July, when Henyard's former aide Keith Freeman blew the whistle on questionable financial activity and was promptly fired, Gonzalez had been on high alert. In Freeman's place, Henyard swiftly installed her loyal ally Keith Price, a move made without the board's approval, further evidence of her efforts to centralize control. Gonzalez didn't hold back. He called out the appointment as illegitimate, arguing that Price had no legal authority to handle sensitive financial documents without board consent. Henyard responded with mixed messages, first insisting that Price didn't need board approval, then claiming he had already been approved. The contradictions only added to the chaos. As tensions peaked, Henyard called for a vote on the invoices, hoping to bulldoze her agenda through. But by then, the tide had turned. Trustees Jerry Jones, Chris Gonzalez, and Carmen Carrilli all voted in favor of launching an investigation into the invoices, a direct challenge to Henyard's financial secrecy. She stood alone, the only dissenting vote. The motion passed, and just like that, the cracks in Henyard's control widened. This vote marked a major turning point, not just in the boardroom, but in the broader collapse of Tiffany Henyard's hold on power. As the investigation into her administration deepens and more revelations come to light, the residents of Dalton are watching and waiting. If you found this breakdown insightful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into this developing story. Your engagement helps us bring you the real stories behind local politics, the ones that matter most.